What's going on, crew? Stefi Cohen here. Today I'm going to talk about my warm-up and some of the exercises that I like to do before I start squatting, benching, and deadlift. Now, the warm-up is a very important part of your workout, and not a lot of people take it too seriously. A warm-up should consist of 3 parts. The first part should be a general warm-up, so that's just a time where you increase your heart rate and your body temperature via a non-general movement, so something like a bike, a rower, a treadmill, a Stairmaster, I don't care what you do. So do that for about 2 or 3 minutes. Then you move into a more dynamic portion of exercises that involve muscles that are going to be involved in the movement that you're doing, but that don't necessarily resemble a movement. And finally, you move into a more specific portion of the warm-up that involves the movement that you're doing. So if you're doing bench, it's just basically doing a barbell bench without weight. If you're doing a squat, you're just doing your squats without weight. If you're doing a deadlift, just doing deadlift without weight. So we're gonna be focusing on part 2 of the warm-up, and that includes the exercises that I like to do before each lift. All right, the first movement we're gonna be discussing is the warm-up exercises for the bench. So one of my favorite ones is the face pull. Basically, you want to attach either a band, or you can do it on a pulley system. You want that band to be way higher than what your height is, which for me is not that difficult because I'm only 5 feet. But essentially all you're gonna do, you wanna assume a staggered stance position, and you're gonna bring the ropes or the bands towards your face, hence the name face pull. So at the level of your eyes or of your forehead. All you're gonna do is pull back, make sure that you're engaging your rhomboids, the back of your upper back, pinching your shoulder blades together, and coming back. So you want to feel a nice contraction, the back of your shoulders and your shoulder blades, and release. And these are usually done you want this to be low weight and high volume, because you don't want to necessarily tax yourself when you're doing it. It's not about the weight that you're doing it in, but just more so think about it as an activation drill to make sure that the muscles that you want to use are active and that you can recruit them when you need them when you're doing your bench. So usually do that for, say, 2 sets of 15 to 20 reps. You start there. The next movement I'm going to show you is a prone row with external rotation. So when you support your chest on the bench, that allows you to really focus on having most of the movement coming from your upper back, and to not have any compensations coming from anywhere else, from your lower back or swinging the weight or anything like that. So essentially what you're gonna do, you're gonna lay on your stomach. You can lift your head off the bench like this. What you're gonna do is you're gonna row up like this, and then externally rotate, hold there, back, and relax. Row up, externally rotate, and back down. Up, externally rotate, hold, and back down. Don't let your ego get in the way. It's not about the weight that you use. It's about quality of reps, and it's about making sure that you're turning on the muscles that you're intending to turn on. And finally, I like to finish with activating my lats. Because the lat is a really important muscle when it comes to bench pressing. It is the only muscle that crosses at the shoulder joint and also that attaches onto your back. So it's a muscle that plays a big role in the global stability of the bench. What you'll do, grab your lat pull down. What you're gonna do is you're gonna alternate one arm and then the other. You're gonna get a nice contraction on that lat, switch, just like that. Make sure that you're not hyperextending your back when you're doing that. You want to keep a nice neutral curve, and switch. And same thing, same as the other exercises. Keep the weight low and do a high amount of reps. So 2 sets of 15 to 20 reps would be appropriate. Moving on to the squat, a thing that a lot of lifters struggle with is the evenness of their squat. So some lifters struggle with exerting the same amount of force on one leg or the other. So I like to do this drill prior to my squats just to make sure that I'm placing an even amount of weight on both legs. So what you're gonna do, you're gonna grab a kettlebell on the opposite hand of the foot that's behind. okay? So this is the leg you're gonna be focusing on. All of the weight should be on this leg. You should be using this leg mainly for balance purposes. So you don't even have to use it. If you have enough balance, you can even like lift it off the ground. It's kind of like a half pistol squat, if you may. So what you're gonna do, you're gonna leave that foot on the floor just for balance, tap down, put all the weight on this leg, come back up. Tap, come back up. So you can do it even with your foot off the bench like this. Make sure that your knee isn't wobbling all over the place. You wanna keep that knee within the limits of your toe so that it's nice and stable. Then what you're gonna do, switch hands, do the same thing. Start there. Not only is this movement great for warm-ups, but it's also great for people who have had any sort of like knee injury, patellar tendinitis, quad tendinitis, and that have been apprehensive about putting even weight on both legs. This is a great exercise to kind of like expose yourself, habituate yourself to the movement that you're trying to do in an environment that's safe. The next movement we're gonna do is a Spanish squat, is what it's called. What you're gonna do, you're gonna grab a moderate resistance band. So this thickness is pretty good, I've found. You're gonna put it right behind the crease of your knees, okay? And you're gonna hold a kettlebell in the front, kind of like in a goblet position. And what you're gonna do, you're gonna put your body weight or let your body weight lean against the band so your body weight is slightly back. You're gonna squat as low as you can comfortably go and come back up. And when you come back up, I want you to squeeze your quads against that band and fully extend your knees. So you're gonna come down, fully extend your knees. There's a lot of debate on whether or not you can selectively activate the medial side of your quad, and that's a discussion for another day. But basically research says you can't, because all 4 muscles in the quad in the front of your thigh are innervated by the femoral nerve. The femoral nerve innervates each branch, so you can't neurologically activate this particular muscle. But by placing your body in different positions and accentuating one portion of a lift versus another, you can feel different areas of the quad working more than others. So when you do the Spanish squat and you accentuate the terminal knee extension, which is the action of the VMO, you're gonna feel that pump in the middle of your knee, and it'll feel very therapeutic, especially for people with overdeveloped lateral quads. It's a really good way to like counteract that action of the lateral quad and for knee health in general, as well as a preparatory movement for squatting. So that's it for squats. Moving on to deadlifts. I like to call this a kettlebell flow, and it's essentially a mix of 3 movements that I do back to back, 2 rounds, to kind of like prepare my body for the deadlifts. The first one is a single arm kettlebell march. So all you're gonna do, hold that kettlebell in front of you. A lot of people do this. That's not what you want. You want to challenge your core. Therefore, you want the load to be in front of you so you can challenge your core muscles a little bit better. And what you're gonna do is you're just gonna march that load in front of you, like doing 20 of these on one arm. Then you switch, 20 in the other one. This is a great exercise in general, not only for the deadlift, but what it does is challenges the front of your core. It also challenges your obliques because it's basically acting as like an anti-flexion load. And also, every time that you have your foot off the ground, you're challenging and strengthening your glute meats, the muscles that stabilize your spine. After you do that, grab that same kettlebell. We're gonna do a staggered stance RDL. So this is challenging from a coordination standpoint, but essentially what you wanna do, you're gonna hold the kettlebell on the opposite hand of the leg that's in front. You're gonna bend the back knee. You wanna get a nice deep stretch on that hamstring of the leg that's in front. So you're gonna come here, try to keep your spine without rounding. So you're gonna hinge from the hip. Think about showing someone that's in the back, showing them your butt. Keep the hamstring tight. Get a nice deep stretch. 15 to 20 on that side. And 15 to 20 on this side. You can choose to do them with 1 kettlebell. You can also do them with 2 kettlebells, whatever you prefer. And finally, a kettlebell swing. If you do sumo deadlift, you can do a sumo stance kettlebell swing. You'll do it like this, Russian style. You don't have to go all the way up. And what you wanna focus on here is on fully extending your hips at the end of each movement. So you don't wanna finish here. You wanna fully extend your hips, squeeze your butt at the top, lock out your knees. Again, an awesome exercise, not only as a warm-up, but also as a finisher. A lot of research done on kettlebell swings carry over onto a deadlift, and it's really promising. So consider doing that maybe a little bit heavier or a lot heavier if you're doing it after your workout. So there you have it. Those are my favorite exercises to do as a warm-up before my squat, bench, and deadlift. Remember, take your warm-up seriously, be methodical about it, make sure that you hit the 3 important parts of your warm-up. The general warm-up, 2 to 3 minutes on a bike, rower, elliptical, whatever you want to do, just to increase your core temperature. Then move into a more dynamic where you're picking exercises that are going to activate muscles that you're going to use. And then finally, make sure that you take your time warming up with a barbell, whether that's for squat, bench, or deadlift, in moving into the more specific part of your warm-up. So those are the 3 parts, 3 important things that you should start implementing. Remember, real athletes never skip their warm-ups, so neither should you. Hope you enjoyed.